WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany. Today I have the wonderful, wonderful privilege of talking about Driftless Glen with the co-founder Renee. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Renee Bemis. My husband, Brian, and I own Driftless Glen Distillery, and it's in Baraboo, Wisconsin. And I know we'll talk about that because everyone's going to say, why Baraboo? But we will discuss it. So
All
thank you,
right.
Jason, for having me on. I really
Well,
appreciate it.
thank you very much for allowing us to have some great products here over in Germany. So Sven says hello on to everyone else in the chat. Heiko here also says good evening together, everyone. Mario says unfortunately he can't be in the chat live. He still has to work. And Driftless Glen was by his tasting really good. So we did on the 28th of December tasting of the 6 single barrels we have here. So Four Leaf Whiskey says, cheers, Renee and Jason. Hi, a new name for me. Good to see you. Very, very good. All right, so I have the single barrel rye here. I also have the single barrel bourbon here. We'll talk about both of these in a second. We have in total 3 bourbons, 3 ryes here in Germany. It's not a tasting, it's actually an introduction to the world of Driftless Glen. So let's start off with the first question here, the name. So Driftless and then Glen. So how did you come upon that name?
Well, when we first, let me give you a little back story. When we first started, we had a partner, and my husband and I were actually going to just be silent partners.
Mm-hmm.
And he
You had a
was
car dealership, right?
my husband owns a car dealership. I'm an artist.
Yeah.
So we had 2 high-end jobs that we were doing, and we said, okay, well, he came to us and said, hey, what a great idea. Let's own a distillery and let's start a distillery. And we're like, okay, what's it going to be? I guess I digress back and forth. So just bear with
We yes,
me. We
go
like
with the
that.
flow. I like that. Yes.
Okay. So he actually came to us and said, we need $3 million to open a distillery. And we said, $3 million will be 50-50 partners. We said, yes. I said, so $1.5 million. Yeah. I said, so okay, for $1.5 million, we'll do it. Well, we have an acronym up at Driftless and we call it BAM. And that stands for Bring Another Million because he had no idea what that was. So anyway, how we got to the name was Driftless is the region in which Baraboo sits. So it's where the glaciers came and they end at that area. They call it Driftless because that's where they stopped. And the water comes down through 700 feet of its own sand and lime and so forth. It's this wonderful aquifer. And so our water is sweet, delicious water. So when we say Driftless, it's because of that area. And not everybody knows it, but the people that do know it, and like Aldo Leopold did a big story about it and everything, they it's about the water. So, and then Glen is again an area. So we did Driftless Glen. And what's interesting is that for me in the beginning, I could hardly remember the name because it's like, oh my gosh, I can't remember it. So it is a tough name. We realize it, but people that get to know it and understand the name.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah,
So I'm just going to share my screen here every once in a while because
sure.
not everyone here in Germany understands, first of all, where Wisconsin is, let alone where the distillery is here. So we have here the map of the U.S. So we go in here. So the Whiskey Experts platform over here said basically somewhere in between Chicago and Minneapolis. So
Yes.
we go over here to Milwaukee, we go up here to Madison, and we
Correct.
go over here to our nice little place. Whoops, here with the distillery there in the city. And then you can see that you're actually in the heart, almost the city on the river, the Baraboo River, and that's where the name of the city comes from as well.
Yes.
And that's where we have that first of all. So good.
Baraboo
That's the
is,
first thing we want to talk about. Very, very good. I'm going
and
to
again,
grade a couple.
everyone that knows when we were talking about water,
Yeah.
everyone that knows about whiskey understands that water is such an important element in the production of whiskey. And so that's why this was a good spot because our water is naturally sweet and delicious. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Very good. So I have two students in here I taught. These are police officers, by the way.
Oh,
So I'm very good to see the two of you here also participating in here. Christopher, Ashley's in here. Marcel's watching here. Mr. AP, hi everyone. And we also have Dan up here, which is a big fan of the rye whiskey. Cheers.
cheers.
So, and Lawrence from California is there, and he just says, "Go Packers!"
There you go.
All right, excellent. So before we move on now, we now know the name, but the windmill up here is something I have not yet also understood. What's the symbolic behind that?
In the Midwest, you have the windmills. And so that's part of this symbolism again with the water. And there is a windmill that's also embossed on the back. So we are kind of known for that windmill.
Yes.
Again, going back to the name. Yep. Going back to the name. When I said to you, I had a hard time myself remembering it. When we were designing the bottle, I said to my husband, taking a note out of Maker's Mark, because people, when it first came out, they couldn't remember the name, but they said, "Get me the bottle with the red wax on it." Okay. They actually trademarked the dipping of that wax, the way they dip it. It's trademarked. So I said to my husband, "Go, look, we did a recon, what we call it. We went down the whiskey aisles and we're looking at it and we're saying, okay, what's going to distinguish Driftless Glen? What's going to make a person pull it?" And so I said, "And what's going to make someone remember the name?" So the interesting thing is that taking my art background, the reason the bottle is square, you do not see many square bottles at all. And on either side of that bottle, okay, we have the embossing of the windmill, but on either side of the bottle are thumbprints.
Yes.
And that's my husband and my thumbprint. So the theory behind it
was two different thumbprints. I did not know that either. Yeah. No, okay. Good. Yes, I see that now. All right. See, that's how unobservant I am. I just knew there were fingerprints or thumbprints, but all right. Good.
So the theory was that people would say, "I can't remember the name of the bottle, the whiskey, but get me the square bottle with the thumbprints." And that's how. And then at some point, just like with Makers, everyone knows Maker's Mark. We figured people would everyone know would Driftless, but had to do something in the beginning just to make it unique.
All right. Now, the very first question that I was asked is, when will they be sued? Because the SWA, the Scotch Whisky Association, sues everyone with the word Glen in their name. Canada, they lost. In Germany, they've won. So
they tried to stop us.
Yes,
in the very beginning. But we are Glen with one N. And because of the region, we could prove that we were Driftless Glen, and they didn't. Because we thought that the Scottish people the Scotch whiskey would stop us, but they didn't. They did try.
They did try.
But it didn't get done. Yeah.
Okay. I see. Very good whiskeys, and the best importer here for American products in Germany. We need more stuff, he says.
Well, we've got more stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So we've actually sold through about a third of the stock already, and it's only arrived at the end of November, which is the worst time ever for us in Germany, which I found out just because of the fact that everyone said, "I'm sorry, Jason, we have all the stock we need for Christmas." Ask in January. So basically in January, February, March, we've sold a third of everything we have already. So
you don't have dry January over there? Because I have dry
Some people do dry January, some people don't. So it's just one of those things. Right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's fine. But yeah, it was an interesting thing that they did try to stop us, but not a problem.
Yeah, very good. That's great.
And I will tell you another thing about that bottle. You see underneath it says Driftless Glen. It says "Taste the American Spirit."
Yes,
that is trademarked.
Yes.
And it was funny because when we came up with it, we were like, "Okay, who's got it?" And no one had it. And we were giggling, going, "How is it that someone didn't put that on?" And so that's trademarked.
Good. Very good.
Taste
the American spirit. That's exactly what we need here. All right. I do love the bottle. I really must admit here. That's a great size, and it's really an eye catcher. And also we have the different colors here of the different products, which we can talk about for a second as well. So let's just go real quick to your website. And I just thought it was fantastic to see the following here. If I go to the website here, Driftless Glen, I will put it in the chat so everyone can also take a look at them as well if they want. You just go down a tiny little bit and you say you've actually produced 8,195 barrels so far, never sourced.
Never
You have
saw.
19 different spirits, and you have 24 states where Driftless Glen is sold, and you have 1,504 places where it's carried in the U.S.,
Right.
not in Germany, right? Not yet.
Right.
And so if we go over here to our spirits, I'm just going to go very briefly over to the rye whiskey, and we see you have three different colors for the rye. You have the red, you have the green, and you have the blue. So
the green and silver.
Yes.
Okay. That's what we call small batch. So that is a blend of our own rye. So we'll pull whiskeys, and it can be they're almost always at least 4 years, but it doesn't say 5 year.
Right.
Okay. So we might have a 6 year in there, but we don't know. You always have to do it from the youngest year.
Mm-hmm.
So that one is a green with a silver. So if you see silver, it's a batch. It's a small batch. Same thing with our bourbon. So when you go to the next ones, which are gold, it has a little 5 years. So those are 5 years straight, single barrel straight whiskeys. Mm-hmm. The green one is at 96 proof. All of our products are 96 proof unless they're cask strength. Yeah. So to not confuse it with the cask strength 5 year, we had to come up with another color. So we did the blue, which is what you have.
So rye is normally green, but unfortunately, luckily, we have cask strength single barrels, 3 different ones here in Germany. And that's why we have the blue. But there's a red one we haven't received yet either. We might receive it one day soon. It's called 51. What was that?
So 51 rye, it's actually an award-winning. It won, it made us best craft distillery, all sorts of things. But there's a really cute story about it. It's 51 rye. It's a Maryland style rye. So it's 51% rye. Mm-hmm. But when we had to, what started out, we wanted to do a rockin' rye. So a flavored rye whiskey that was lower proof that could appeal to the young generation. Okay. So your young 20s, shooter drinks, kind of like a Jaeger bomber sort of thing, but it's a rye whiskey. So we had to do, so each of our ryes are different formulas. So the 51 rye was a completely different formula, and we had to have it at the highest proof that we could have it. And so our still is 44-foot continuous column, a Vendome copper still. So when we do a run, we get somewhere between 9 and 10 barrels, depending on the product. Sometimes get a little bit more, a little less. So we did a run of this rye, and we only needed a very small batch to send off to a flavoring company to come up with some flavors. We did a cherry cola, vanilla spice, an orange something, and root beer. Okay, so these are and they were in really cool bottles, and it was called Rockin' Rye, and it had guitars, and it had the fingers, and it just was really neat. And they were like a $20 bottle of a shooter drink. Again, I get ahead of myself. So we do the first run, and we have 9 barrels. So we stick them in barrels, and we put them in the rack house. Yeah. And we ship it off, and they lose it. So the samples. So we do another run. We didn't learn the first time. We didn't save any extra. We saved the amount, put the more in barrels, and shipped it off to the company. Now, of course, they don't come back with good flavors that we like. So we have to do a third run. Okay. So make this long story short, in the sense of, we did get the other product. It did not get on the shelf. I mean, it didn't, because it was a $20 bottle, and the distributors really didn't want it because there's not enough money in the product, which we didn't understand that. But fast forward, we've got 27 barrels of this product sitting in the warehouse, and in about 2 years, we go, we ought to taste that. And we went, wow, that's so good. Let's just wait. So at 4 year, we tried it, and it was phenomenal, and it wins awards and wins everything, and it's called 51 Rye. And so now we put up about 100 to 150 barrels every year of just that rye, and the other product got scrapped. So that's how you get good things come from mistakes. But yeah, that's
very
how
good. Don says that 51 rye is fantastic. So
it
that's
is.
very,
It's
very good.
really good.
So I'm looking forward to trying it myself one day. So we did it the opposite around. Instead of getting the standard products and then the single barrels, we just went for the single barrels straight off. So that's also a good way of doing it for us. Now let's go back a little bit to the beginning. So you had your partner. You were supposed to be just a silent partner. He was supposed to run the business. It was supposed to be 3 million, and then suddenly, something happened, right?
So he didn't realize, he really didn't understand the magnitude of this business. Okay. Plus, we opened a distillery restaurant with distillery cuisine with it. So there were so many facets within this company, and he sort of put his head in the sand, and he didn't want to discuss it. And so we started building it in 12, and we filled our first barrel in 14, and we opened our doors to the public for the restaurant in April of 15. And in June of 15, so 2 months later, we bought him out. And so we've been doing it since. And then we were thrust into owning a distillery. We went, what? So as I take off I do one part of it. My husband does a different part of it. But we have an incredible team up there. Our distillers, our operations manager, she was our first hire. She's still there. Our marketing manager, our restaurant, all of it. They're long time. Almost everyone was there from the beginning, and they stayed with us. So yeah, it's a great group of people.
Yeah, that is wonderful. Now I do remember reading something about Dave Pickerell being involved in the beginning.
So
now, for those that don't know, he was Dr. Jim Swan was in Scotland with single malt Scotch, and Dave Pickerell is the bourbon genius behind a lot of the new craft distilleries or the new distilleries in the USA.
So he helped design the distillery, the back end of the distillery. He came up with the whole process between the column, the pot still, all the fermenting tanks, and everything along that line. And another cute story with the distillery. So again, silent partners, not really involved in that part. And we built a building in Baraboo. It's 26-foot distillery. It's tall. And Dave Pickerell, we had contracted with Vendome for a continuous column. It was supposed to be 60 feet, 60. Okay. Our partner heard 16 feet. So when we built the distillery, built it with that idea. And the next thing you know, our contractor calls us and says, Houston, we have a problem.
You can't fit that in this. Yeah.
And Baraboo has a height limit. So Vendome actually cut the still and turned it and put it horizontally at the top. They actually now, another fun story, they actually now make stills like that because of ours. They realize it actually works better. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Very cool. I'll show you a picture here. So you can see a little bit here of that Vendome.
You can see at the top how it's turned sideways.
Yeah, exactly.
That was supposed to go up all the way, keep going up.
But I did not. You can actually see that part at the end there. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So here we have a little bit of your bottles, and here we have is that your doubler now, or what is that?
That is a third still. That's what we'll use for our clears.
Okay, good.
You'll see a pot still somewhere, I think. It's a Vendome pot still.
Yeah. So and safe. So the barrels here, and this is the distillery. If no one's ever seen that. So that's what we
call. So we had to build that to host our still.
Yeah.
And as you come down the road to our distillery, you pass 2 or 3 churches.
Yes.
So we joke and say, "Oh, we have our own steeple."
You do, don't you? Definitely.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it, I was like, I've seen churches that look very, very similar in the States
That's
like that.
exactly right. We always laugh and we go,
Yeah.
we have our own church steeple.
Okay. And we can see a little bit of the different colors here and the different
Yes.
bottles that you have there. Very good. Warehouse here. So just some Driftless Glen, and then here outside your wonderful wall with the your logo on it, and going back here to the pot stills.
Yeah.
All right. So just wanted to show a couple of pictures so we know a little bit of what we're talking about here. So at the moment we are going to we'll be bringing the other products. Let's see when that is here. One day, I hope. And Barry says, very nice still and very, very high. So,
yeah, it
yeah.
is nice.
But first, we have to sell us some more of these single barrels here before we can reorder some new stock here. So that's actually very, very nice. Now, let's talk a little bit about the whiskey, because I have, first of all, I'm going to start off with the rye here.
Mhm.
And you have a very unique mash bill, 75% rye, 25% malted barley, no wheat, no corn. How did that happen? Because I don't know anyone doing that mash bill ever.
And it's wonderful, isn't it?
It is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. We have tweaked them a little bit.
Mhm.
The rye, we really haven't changed too much.
Mhm.
We have changed our bourbon a little bit,
Yeah.
but because our bourbon, we put distiller's malt, I think, in it now, a little bit of distiller's malt. But people that try our rye, they usually their first response is, "Oh, I don't like rye. It's too hot. It's too this." And then I said, "Well, just try it." And then they try it and they love it. And we have a very it's got a lot of spice, but it's not too strong. It's a wonderful rye. And again, I think part of it is the fact that we get all of our grains locally sourced. Okay. A lot of rye whiskey, the rye comes from overseas.
Sometimes Germany,
Yes,
Poland, Ukraine back then. Yes.
yes, and Canada.
Yeah.
A lot of it comes from those. But we get all of our grains right there locally within the Midwest.
Right.
Same thing with our corn.
Mhm.
And I do believe that makes a difference in the way it tastes. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Very good. But you're not specifically working with any local farms. You still buy it from the silos and the truckloads, right?
We do buy it, but well, we go with certain farms.
Right.
There's our corn is out of Effingham and some of the different places, but we actually, funny enough, my husband and I actually just purchased a bunch of farms, and we were debating whether or not we want to grow our own corn.
Ooh.
We've talked about doing blue corn and
Yes.
having, a blue corn whiskey. But if we do our own farms, we can have them organically grown and then go through a whole process that way. So we're always looking at things to do to change, to make people say, hey, why do we want to pick up that product?
Yeah.
But I think part of it is the fact that, and one of the things we're very proud of, and I'm not making a bad statement about being sourced, because people that source their products still have to blend.
As long as you just transparent about it, great.
Correct. They still have to blend them. They still have to do whatever they have to do to them to make them whatever. But for us, we are proud of the fact that what you're tasting, we actually make everything right there in Baraboo. We produce it, we age it, we bottle it, we do it all right there.
Yeah.
Distill it right there at our facility. So if you come, you can see the whole process.
I'm gonna have to come one day.
You
How many
should.
employees do you have? You're probably a couple dozen, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, if you include the restaurant, we have, I don't know, 50 to 75, depends
Wow.
on
Yeah.
with including the restaurant. But within the distillery, we run a real small, tight ship. A lot of people do a lot of things, and we rely. We are not over employed. I should put it that way.
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah.
So you have a much higher capacity. You could run 24/7. You don't.
Yes.
You're running one shift, I think, 5 days a week at the moment.
We run one shift. We do about 1,200 barrels a year.
Right.
At the moment.
Yep.
We could do close to 6,000.
Yeah.
Right? Which makes us one of the larger craft distilleries outside of Kentucky. We don't, only because of the fact that until we start selling so much more. So as we start selling more and more, we're adding more and more barrels. We feel like we've got enough stock without having to do any buying of any products, and we're really looking long term. And we also save barrels for tenure. So we have some, like we released a wheated bourbon last year. I think we had 50 barrels of wheated. We actually were just rated as one of the top wheated bourbons you can get. So we were very proud of that. But we saved 10. Yeah. Okay. We saved 10 of those barrels to go for, because we waited for 5 years to release it at 5 year. So we saved 10 of those barrels to go for 10 year. We're releasing more this year, and every year we're going to save at least 10 barrels to do a 10-year release. It's not a lot, but it would be something special.
Exactly. So 1,800 bottles or so on. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
After 10 years. So the angel share, we talked a little bit about that before we went live here. So you do have unique winters compared to Kentucky. The climate is a little bit different.
Yes.
What's so special about the weather conditions up there in Wisconsin that can make an excellent 5-year-old whiskey?
So what's interesting is that the cold weathers really do help it. Okay, it may take it a little bit longer to get to where you want it to go, but it's all about the contraction and the expansion of the spirit of the liquid going in and out of the barrel. Okay, so we have it at 4 char. Our barrels are 4 char.
Yep.
So when we get the real cold, it contracts and everything, and then it expands and it goes in and out and makes it really sweet. We do have, we have 4 warehouses, but 2 of the warehouses are heated. One of them is not. So sometimes we'll move barrels around.
Which is a pain in the neck, I think.
Yeah, it is. But what we do is that if we know something is getting to a certain point, we want to, and that's usually in the winter, and we want to just get it into the heated one, we can move it in there, move something out, and that works out really well. So, and sometimes, you can taste the product today and you'll be like, oh, it's still, still needs some time. And then put it in one of the heated warehouses. And in 2 months, you're like, okay, it's good. It's just one of those weird things. But what we were talking about earlier is that about 2.5 years ago, we switched cooperages, and we go with a company called the Oak. They do the wine barrels for Silver Oak. They're the actual cooperage for Silver Oak. And their barrels are so magnificent that we basically don't have any leaking at all. And we've gone through, you name it, we've probably done all the other barrels. And there's some barrels that are just, you can taste it and you go, oh my God, that's a barrel mill one. Or, oh, that's, a Zach barrel or a Kelvin or something. You can taste it a little bit. But we've never had a barrel like these where you don't have any leaking. And some of them leak worse than others. And there's nothing worse than watching your product hit the ground. So we were joking, going, you want to put a glass under there and grab some of it.
I wanted to have a whole little bucket underneath there, but that's something else.
It's heart-wrenching. You just watching it go, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. You can try to plug the holes real quick, but you've lost so much of the product. So that's part of the problem. It hurts. I gotta tell you, it really hurts to watch it go on the ground.
So we hope that does not happen too often. So what is your average angel share? I know in Kentucky they talk about somewhere between 4 and 6 and so on, and in Ireland and Scotland they're at 2 to 4 and so on. Do you know approximately what you have for the angel share?
We're usually, I think we're a little bit more than that, only because of you lose about 5 in almost the first year. There's some of that, so we're probably closer to 6 or 7%. We're not really sure with these new barrels because we're not going to empty them for another 2.5 years or so. But
maybe even a tighter oak grain as well in there.
I think so. It's funny, we have compared the color and the nose and the taste to some of the other barrels that are within the same time frame. And it's interesting how the oak is already darker. Those barrels are already darker than the others, and there's you can smell it. So it's really amazing what a barrel does, the difference of a barrel. And we don't put any stuff in the barrels, or to help age it or do any of that stuff. We're a traditional. We do it the old-fashioned way. You just have to suck it up and go through the time and wait your time.
Wait, yeah, exactly. There's no replacement for just good old time, is there? Yeah,
it really isn't.
You can't cheat Father Time here with the whiskey.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
You can't.
Very, very good. I really, really enjoy this. We did the a blind tasting of the 3 single barrels, and this is the number 17191, and this is just fabulous. Oh, by the way, here, so the person who is it? Oh wow, I need my glasses as well. I'm getting old,
See who bottled it?
Yeah, it's Connie, I think, or Cassie. Casey bottled this one, right? So.
Well, Casey now is our whole warehouse manager.
Oh, good.
Casey is a really unique story. Oh. He started working for us at 15 in high school, doing stuff around the distillery. Then he was doing tours. He was working in the back, and now he's our warehouse manager, and he has redesigned the warehouse. We have a system called Whisky Systems, and now if you need to find that barrel, he's redone the whole thing. He can go right into the system and say, okay, that's in warehouse 2 on the second row to the left, up top, and you know exactly where that barrel is. And you no longer have to start pulling things out to see where they are. So,
that's good.
Yeah, no, he's wonderful.
He got some barcodes going on there, I think, right?
Yeah, he does. He did a good job. And I mean, but he was doing bottling for a while. And I think, we would have had our bottling line with those labels. So, someone's in Netherlands.
Yes. Hi, Michael. Good to see you. Good to see you to drop by. He's also a big fan of the Driftless. So anytime anyone asks, I'm looking for something unique at a bourbon cask strength Driftless. It's just like, looking for a good rye cask strength Driftless. It's just like one of his favorite answers, and I must agree.
Well, I thank you for that, because I got to tell you, once one of the things that we are very proud of that, and we do have enough barrels that one of the nice things being a craft distillery is that if you did get to the point you're like, everybody wanted Driftless, we could still provide it for you. It's not, that's a sad thing about smaller craft places. If they make a fantastic whiskey and then it takes off, you may never get it again. Yeah.
Wait 5 more years, we can make it again. Yes.
Right, exactly. But we've been, we produce, and so it's sitting there.
All right, very good. So that was our rye whiskey. Let's briefly go over to our bourbon whiskey, because you mentioned that the mash bill is also a little bit different here. So we have the white label here, and the gold is always where we know we have our single barrels, compared to now the silver, which is your standard small batch. What is the mash bill now? I thought it was 70-20-10. 70% corn, 20% rye, and 10% malted barley is what I was informed of or told. So I hope that's still true. By the way, this time I have Angelica.
Angelica, yeah.
Angelica. I said it in
she's now she's the head of the bottling line now. She does.
Very, very nice.
No, you have the right mash bill on that one.
Yep. Great.
Before, we used to have a malted barley, a distiller's malt in there.
Right.
And we changed that.
Right.
Just, you know what? It just makes it a little bit different. Some people will ask us, what kind of yeast we use, and do we do our own yeast? We tried doing that. We don't need to do that. It's just a whole nother aspect that you don't need to do.
Yeah.
But that what you're trying right there is what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
The same mash bill. So
this was 58.5 with the rye, the single cask. This is now going to be 62.5. So it's actually going up there where it should be. And that's very, very, very nice. Proof 123, and we have the barrel number. I will not forget 3521, because so many people have asked exactly for this barrel. So this is a very good product. 79 euros 90 cents over here in Germany, and 84 euros and 90 cents for these bottles.
Rye,
Recommended retail
rye
price.
costs more to make than bourbon.
Yeah, exactly.
The rye does. Those are actually pretty good prices for because I know you have to pay duty and you have this and that. It's so much, but you know what? When you compare it to a bottle of wine, where you go through a whole bottle in one day or one evening, it doesn't cost much at
No.
all.
And to be very honest, it's difficult to get a cask strength rye anything under 80, 85 euros at the moment. Even Pikesville is much, much more expensive than this at the moment. So we're doing very, very good with the price there. And also here, if you go over to the just the standards that we would have, try to get a Stag Junior for this price. Try to get a Blanton straight from the barrel for this price. Try to get even something else here, even Booker's and so on.
And you won't
cost more.
Right. And you won't be disappointed. It's really, really wonderful whiskey. I'm not just saying it because it's ours, but I mean, I do try others. And I'll try some that people say, oh, this is so great. This is so great. And I'll be like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it is good, but at home, I'm going to go back to my whiskey, right?
And what's interesting is that some of the whiskeys that people think are craft really aren't craft. They're done by the big companies. And they, he says it's also bottled by Angelica. She's the head of the bottling line now. So she's probably got her name on most of the, what we did for just randomly changing because you're on bourbon. For a month of October, our bottle goes pink.
Right.
So we give money to breast cancer awareness.
Very good. And
what we did is we did our release party, and you could come in and bottle your own or put whoever's name on it that you wanted. So anyone that you might know that was either struggling or is a survivor, you could buy a bottle and have their name put on it and then take it home and that sort of thing. It was a really, we're going to do it every year. This year, Casey took a barrel and we painted it hot pink. So everyone that came into the distillery, we had a Sharpie on there and they could write all over the barrel. And so we gave it to Susan Corman, Jake Corman, or whoever it is, that G Corman in Madison. And I think they're going to auction it off or something. But and then what we did was with each state that took the bottles, we donated within that state. The distributor got to choose who got the money. So even though it was our program, we did not dictate where the money went. The distributor got to say, hey, I want it to go to this cancer center or that cancer center. And so it that label, which is white right there, was hot pink. It's great. It looks wonderful.
I'm sure. That's very, very, very nice. Great. Well done. Thank you very much for that. That's good.
We all give back a little bit however we can, and that's one of ours. And we also donate. We do special barrels for our military. If people come to us, we do all kinds of things for people.
Yeah, great. Very, very nice. So what if we come visit you? You have, I think you're closed Mondays and Tuesdays, but Wednesday to Sunday you're open?
Well, only in the winter, because in the winter it's really cold and you don't have as many tourists. But I think we open May 1st, 7 days a week. You can do a tour. We have a great tour. One of the things in Wisconsin, in the restaurants, we have a 5-star restaurant. We use distillery cuisine. So basically our spirits, we use them in our dishes and our desserts. We have some great desserts. Bourbon bread pudding. Oh my. Anyway, we have a rye pasta. I mean, it's fabulous. In Wisconsin, you can only serve your drinks of what you make. Other than beer, we can have a beer license. So we can't serve wine, which we wouldn't anyway. But so to make a margarita, for instance, we use our double cast gin that we make, and we make a margarita with double cast gin. So we do a lot of R&D and so forth. Well, one of the things that we have is we have a line of olive oils and vinegars. And so we use those vinegars. So we have a black cherry vinegar that we use in our blackberry old fashions. or we use, a green apple vinegar with our Granny Smith old fashions. And we have stuff for our Manhattans and stuff like that. So we have some really unique drinks. If you come, people say they love our cocktails. If you go on our website, you can see how to make some of these cocktails. We have a whole mixology page.
Okay, well, I'll go to the cocktails recipe and you can talk for a second here while I'm showing that here. All right, so let's
You probably, if
go
you're on bourbon, you can go to our mixology of bourbon.
we have the bourbon root beer float. We have the cran orange sour, the driftless old fashioned, the lemon drop martini there, and here we have the ones the blackberry old fashioned. Sounds good.
Oh, they're fabulous.
Strawberry smash and the blackberry salute. Oh, it even continues here. Bourbon bloody.
No, we have loads.
Yeah, come on. Yes, we have the ryes as well here. The rye runner. Ooh. Pecan pie teeny. Oh, that is also cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing what you're doing there.
And this is wrapping with our brandy.
And new creations coming soon.
Yeah,
of course.
They create every month. We try to come out with new ones.
Okay.
So we have 4 gins and 4 vodkas and brandy and things that we have sitting in the back. We have next year we will release our 5-year single malt. We did have it, but we only did so much, and we released it and it's gone. We have a smoke whiskey. We only did about 10 barrels. We did it once and we released it already, and everybody loved it, so we did it again. So it's got another maybe 3 years or 2 years. So we have things sitting in the back, and the other thing, because it's just my husband and I, and we're so nimble, we can do whatever. We do some barrel finishing. So if we have a client that calls us and says, hey, we'd like you to do port finish bourbon. We've got a bourbon de Naranja. So we got some of those barrels out of Spain. And we did.
That I looked at that, was like, oh wow, I know. I think it was Amru from India did something there as well with the orange peel and so on. That's wonderful. Here you talked about the wheated bourbon. Here you have your port finish bourbon. Wow.
Right. So we do a couple different things. Yeah, the Naranja one, best in class, and it's really delicious. I'm trying to think of what else we've got, but we have others that are sitting in the back and playing. Oh, what did we do? Our distiller was funny. He said he called it spicy grapes. It's a rye finished brandy, I think. He calls it spicy grapes. And it's really good. You can only get it at the distillery at the moment. So sometimes we do just a single barrel of something to try. And then people that come to the distillery can pick that up and get something.
Very good. For my friend Bozio here, depends on where he is in Indiana, right? Indianapolis, almost, 6 hours? Or how long would it be a drive?
Maybe, but he'd have a great time. He'd have a good meal. We're right by Devil's Lake Park. Make it a day. Go up on the park. Come in the summer. It's beautiful.
It is.
We're the only place you can eat right on the river, so you can sit out on the patio. We're expanding right now. We're putting in we added our patio last year, but we're adding a whole nother section to the restaurant, and it's always expanding.
Oh yeah, isn't that always the case? Always expanding here. Very, very, very nice. So I wanted to see if I can find a picture of the outside with the patio here, and the Google sometimes has some great pictures here. But nope, can't find anything real quick. That's nice.
There's probably pictures of all the restaurant stuff on the website too, all the food and the things, because like I said, we have an incredible chef, and Easter Sunday is coming up, and we have over 450 reservations.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
you'll be busy.
We'll be busy, but it's a buffet, and they do an incredible buffet. So.
Very, very good. Now let's get back to our whiskey that we have here in Germany and all that we're doing. Now, one thing is to fly to America. Another thing is to find your way into Wisconsin. It's not the most, at least for the international tourism, the place we end up. We're often in Florida, New York, Las Vegas, maybe down in Dallas, and also Los Angeles. Those would be the hot spots that you usually find the people. Some people might be in Chicago. Then it's another 2.5 hour drive from Chicago, maybe?
From Chicago. Yep.
See, that's
But you
worth
can
it, all right?
actually find our products in just about every state that you just mentioned.
Oh, interesting. Very, very good.
Find us in
So,
Florida and
yeah,
California and Texas and
New York.
New
Mhm.
York and
Yeah. Very, very. Yeah. You're in
East.
28 states already, so that's very good.
Yeah.
And you're in UK and you're in Germany. Any
And
other plans to expand? Where else?
we would, it just has to be with the right people because
Mhm.
we personally aren't over there. So
Yeah.
we want people that want to represent it. And like when you said, hey, do you want to get on a Zoom call and do a live podcast? Absolutely. I'll do anything to help move the product
Right.
and get people to try it. We actually had a national contract proposed to us about 2 years ago, might even be a little bit longer than that. And we didn't take it because we didn't feel like, and it was with a major, major
Right.
company, but we didn't take it because we were afraid that we would get lost in the shuffle.
In the shuffle. Yeah.
And that's a problem. You have to be careful. So we're very cautious who we go into business with.
Mhm.
We want them to love our product and to
Yes.
represent us well, which I can tell you do.
We're working on it. So
Yes.
we're building the brand over here, and this is
There you
one little tiny little step in the right direction we can go here. And so that's very nice. I must admit, I love my bourbon, but I thoroughly enjoy my ryes. And so I switched back to the rye because I just adore this one. So
Isn't that funny? And that's why I was saying that
yeah.
we will move bourbon people to our rye.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, and we have a lot of rye in our warehouse, our rack
Mhm.
houses,
Yeah. Yeah.
aging, and we will be doing. Thank you, Barry. We will be doing a 10-year release. We've got some that are already 7
Yeah.
that we like. The very first barrels that you put through, they're okay,
Yeah.
but you're still needs
Still
it
a little
needs
bit
to
of a learning curve.
well, and you still needs to like it seasons it.
Yeah.
It's the reason why you saw that clear still. I mean,
Mhm.
the silver, the not our copper pot still, but
Yeah.
the silver pot still. When we were running our clears through our column, you couldn't strip it enough. You couldn't
Yeah.
strip the column enough to not have the vodkas taste a little bit of whiskey. And one
Mhm.
thing about vodka is you're not supposed to be able to taste it at all.
Right.
It's supposed to be a clean, you can't taste it. So we bought a third still, I should
Mhm.
say, to do the clears on
Right.
so that no whiskeys go through it. Right.
Right.
So we don't have that issue.
Very,
Yeah.
very good. So if I show a little picture here of your other pot still, it's going to look like this, I guess, right?
Yep. There's our pot still. It's a 550-gallon pot still. That's
Mhm.
Robert. He's one of our tour guides.
Ah, good.
He's telling you what's going on, and
Right.
yeah.
Very, very nice. All right, good. So I just wanted to show that, but all the whiskey is made on the column still, and that's the important part there.
It is because we were using the pot still as a doubler.
Right.
But what happens is that we found, because of the column and the way it was done, that it stripped too much of the
Right.
taste out.
Mhm.
So I think you either do it in the pot or you do it in the column. But to
Okay.
do it as a doubler,
Yeah.
it took too much of the taste away.
Good, good.
Yeah. So that's what right now a lot of craft distilleries are only pot stills. And that might make another reason why our whiskey tastes different, because it's in a column,
Yep.
a big column.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I've tried to say what's special about your bourbon, your rye, not just the taste, but the mash bill and the process and so on. Have I forgotten anything that we might have to mention here about why people should definitely try Driftless Glen Rye and the bourbon?
Well, again, when we started this conversation, we were talking about Baraboo in the water.
Yeah.
So as everybody knows, when we put our product in the barrel, we put it in at 117 proof. Comes off the still.
So for everyone who's not good at math, that's going to be 58.5% alcohol ABV.
But it comes off the still at like 160 or
which is
whatever it
80
is.
proof. 80 ABV, yes.
Right.
You have to
So
dilute it down in the barrel.
how do you dilute it down before putting it into the barrel? You dilute it with water.
Yes.
And so unless your water, so because our water is so sweet, I mean, literally we drink the tap water. It is delicious.
Mhm.
that adds, I think, to the flavor, that sweetness of the water as it's sitting in there, and then it's aging with the product going in and out of the barrel into the sweetness of the wood and that sort of thing is what I think gives us a unique taste. I mean, that's what makes a difference.
Hi, Ben. Ben says the rye is super.
Thank you.
And in German, we would say because it's delicious. Would be in German, beides lecker ist. So very well said there. Very nice.
So I think that is when you ask what's the difference, other than it being that we get all our products locally sourced. So really it's either in Illinois or Wisconsin. We get all our grains from Illinois, Wisconsin, everything. Yep. And I think that makes a difference. Again, it's where it's grown. It's the ground, where we live, because we have a home in Illinois and it's called DeKalb, Illinois. If you ever see the signs with corn and wings, it's DeKalb, Illinois, which is where it's a corn capital. I mean, the corn here is magnificent. And again, that's, I think, part of it.
Yep. Very, very good. Now, we're almost over with our time. So one last question is, what can we look forward in the future? You mentioned the 10-year-olds. That would be the rye and the 10-year-old bourbon maybe one day in the next 3 to 4 years?
Absolutely. We've got both of them aging. We probably have both of them at about 7.5 years. We might have some 8-year-old already. And you want to, people will say, oh, release a 7-year-old, but then, you gotta get it to 10. And
exactly.
The problem will be when we get to that 10-year-old, we'll go, do we want to keep it to 15?
Or 12 at least, right?
12. I don't know. I think there's that. And then I think what you should keep an eye out for are some of these, like the single American malt. So we did release that the first time we did. We put it into the London Spirits competition, and it won a gold medal, which I thought was amazing because it was a single malt. And in England, in London, I should say, it was impressive that we won that. So it's a wonderful product. And just keep an eye out. Jason, you want something special? Just let us know. We can do it.
All right. So everyone in the chat can write down what they would like here. What would be special? We'll try to work on it in the next 2 years. Yeah, right.
We can do it. So what we do is we just age it in a barrel for like another 6 to 8 months, depending on the product, how fast it can in and out of the barrel of the finishing barrel. But we'll put a 5-year product in there, and we can do a single barrel aged with something that you would only get from you.
Yeah, that sounds like a good thing.
Yes, what can be done? I can do that for you.
I'm sure you can. So
I just have to find out what your people want.
Yeah, exactly. So
So
please write in the comments below or here in the chat what you would like, and we'll see what's possible in the next months or years here to make this happen. So that's very, very good.
I mean, we absolutely can do it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's think about it. How many places can you say we'll do that for you?
I know. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So Barry says thank you very much for this short, nice time and good Easter wishes to everyone.
Amen to you.
And here, Lawrence in California says, Renee, which of your higher rye expressions would you personally recommend?
I like I do like our single, the one that you have right there, that rye. But I also like our 51. If you can find it, because I think he said he's in LA or somewhere.
He's in California. I'm not sure if he's in LA. I know he's in California.
Okay. I think they believe. I believe they have our 51 rye out there.
Okay.
And if we can ship via to California, we are online, so he could probably. I don't know if California is one of those states they can ship to. Can't ship it directly from us, but we have multiple online places that we deal with, and they have
the wonderful 3-tier system of the USA. Sometimes I'd like to.
I know, and that's a sad thing. Just on a side note, if you think about it, a small craft guy that wants to put their life savings into something, if a distributor doesn't pick them up, they're dead in the water. I thought we were supposed to have that American dream. You build something, you can sell it. But if you don't have a distributor, you can't sell it unless it's out of your own distillery. and not everybody can make a living from that.
No,
So
especially during COVID, we couldn't,
right.
for
So
example. Yeah.
So the direct to consumer really doesn't hurt the distributors, but it does help the smaller guys
Yep.
because the big people always are going to need the distributor. You're always going to need them.
Mm.
And so, I mean, they've been able to do it for wine for years.
Yes,
They
they
should be able
have.
to do it for spirits, right?
All right.
For sure.
Well, Renee, I think we've covered most of everything we wanted to. Anything that I left off that you'd like to mention at the end?
No, but thank you so much for having me on. And
Thank you so much for your time and also presenting now to Germany your products
we're
here.
so
That's
happy to
good.
be in Germany. I
Yep.
hope you guys love it. Please buy
Yep.
it. Please buy it so that we can stay in Germany. We love saying that we're represented by you all, and I think thank you for a wonderful evening. I enjoyed being here.
All right. Thank you very much. So if there are any questions, either in English or German, always you can contact me. I'm just going to put up my YouTube. So my email address here, whiskyjason@gmail.com. If you need a bottle, no problem. We can make that happen within Germany. Sorry about that. I'm not very good at sending across borders here because of also international laws and different alcohol taxes and so on. But there's a lot of praise here, and thank you very much, Renee, for being here. Okay, WhiskyJason, Whiskey from the Viewpoint of an American says goodbye, and you have the last words.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on, and I'll look forward to working with you in the future. Call me about that barrel.
All right, we'll do. All right. Bye-bye.
Everyone, thank you.